out one of the staples. The chain fell down, and we opened the door and went in and shut it, and struck a match, and see the shed was only built against a cabin, and had no connection with it, and there weren't no floor to the shed, nor nothing in it but some old rusty played-out hoes and spades and picks and a crippled plow. The match went out, and so did we, and shoved in the staple again, and the door was locked as good as ever. Tom was joyful. He says, "Now we're all right. We'll dig him out. It'll take about a week." Then we started for the house, and I went in the back door. You only have to pull a buckskin latch string. They don't fasten the doors. But that warn't romantical enough for Tom Sawyer. No way would do him but he must climb up the lightning rod. But after he got up halfway about 3 times, and missed fire and fell every time, and the last time most busted his brains out, he thought he'd give it up. But after he was rested, he allowed he would give her one more turn for luck, and this time he made the trip. In the morning we was up at break of day, and down to the nigger cabins to pet the dogs and make friends with the nigger that fed Jim, if it was Jim that was being fed. The niggers was just getting through breakfast and starting for the fields, and Jim's nigger was piling up a tin pan with bread and meat and things, and whilst the others was leaving, the key come from the house. This nigger had a good-natured, chuckle-headed face, and his wool was all tied up in little bunches with thread. That was to keep witches off. He said the witches was pestering him awful these nights, and making him see all kinds of strange things, and hear all kinds of strange words and noises, and he didn't believe he was ever witched so long before in his life. He got so worked up, and got to running on so about his troubles, he forgot all about what he'd been a-going to do. So Tom says, "What's the vittles for? Going to feed the dogs?" The nigger kind of smiled around gradually over his face, like when you heave a brickbat in a mud puddle. And he says, "Yes, Mars Sid, a dog. Curious dog, too. Does you want to go and look at him?" "Yes." I hunched Tom and whispers, "You going? Right here in the daybreak? That warn't the plan." "No, it warn't, but it's a plan now." So, drat him, we went along, but I didn't like it much. When we got in, we couldn't hardly see anything, it was so dark, but Jim was there, sure enough, and he could see us, and he sings out, "Why, Huck, and good land, ain't that Mr. Tom?" I just knowed how it would be. I just expected it. I didn't know nothing to do, and if I had, I couldn't have done it, because the nigger busted in and says, "Why, to gracious sakes, do he know you gentlemen?" We could see pretty well now. Tom, he looked at the nigger, steady and kind of wondering, and says, "Does who know us?" "Why, dis yer runaway nigger." "I don't reckon he does, but what put that into your head?" "What put it there? Didn't he just dis minute sing out like he knowed you?" Tom says in a puzzled-up kind of way, "Why, that's mighty curious. Who sung out? When did he sing out? What did he sing out?" And turns to me perfectly calm and says, "Did you hear anybody sing out?" Of course there weren't nothing to be said but the one thing. So I says, "No, I ain't heard nobody say nothing." Then he turns to Jim and looks him over like he never see him before and says, "Did you sing out?" "No, suh," says Jim. "I hain't said nothing, suh." "Not a word?" "No, suh, I hain't said a word." "Did you ever see us before?" "No, suh, not as I knows on." So Tom turns to the nigger, which was looking wild and distressed, and says, kind of severe, "What do you reckon's the matter with you, anyway? What made you think somebody sung out?" "Oh, it's de dad-blame witches, suh, and I wisht I was dead, I do. Dey's always at it, suh, and dey'd most kill me, dey skeers me so. Please don't tell nobody 'bout it, suh, or old Marse Silas he'll scold me, 'cause he say dey ain't no witches. I just wish to goodness he was here now. Then what would he say? I just bet he couldn't find no way to get around it dis time. But it's always just so. People that sot stays sot. They won't look into nothing and find it out for deyselves, and when you find it out and tell 'em 'bout it, They don't believe you." Tom give him a dime and said we wouldn't tell nobody, and told him to buy some more thread to tie up his wool with, and then looks at Jim and says, "I wonder if Uncle Silas is going to hang this nigger. If I was to catch a nigger that was ungrateful enough to run away, I wouldn't give him up, I'd hang him." And whilst the nigger stepped to the door to look at the dime and bite it to see if it was good, he whispers to Jim and says, "Don't ever let on to know us, and if you hear any digging going on nights, it's us. We're going to set you free." Jim only had time to grab us by the hand and squeeze it. Then the nigger come back, and we said we'd come again sometime if the nigger wanted us to, and he said he would, more particular if it was dark, because the witches went for him mostly in the dark, and it was good to have folks around then. End of chapter 34.